Hey, and welcome back. I was working on my hot rod the other day, doing a little bit of wiring, and I thought this might actually be good content to do a quick video on. Today, I want to talk about relays, the electric, 12 volt, 30 amp, 5 pin relays that are commonly used on our hot rods and stuff. To drive our electric fuel pumps or electric water pumps or fans or whatever. So I'm going to talk about initially. I'm going to show the pinout, of the actual relay itself. We'll look at the schematic, and we'll talk about where everything gets connected to, and then I want to talk about a harness that connects to it, what's available. Then I'm going to talk about repinning a harness, so you can switch the wires around. If you're looking at the colors, and then also how to do some splices neatly and ID the wires. So anyhow, I think I've got some good content for you, and I'm gonna jump right into it here. So here we go. Here, I just wanted to talk about the connections on this relay a little bit more. So it's a Bosch relay, or this is the Bosch brand. There's obviously a lot of different manufacturers with the same configuration, but so again, this pinout here that we're looking at is looking at the bottom of the relay. So I'll bring it upside down. Let's see, I rotate it around like that, and that matches. These pins match this one. And the way I kind of use as reference, I look for every time, is the two horizontal ones. These two horizontal ones, I put them at the top. Then I know what these pins are here. And if you look really closely, you might be able to see they actually do have numbers. They're numbered. This is 87. The one in the middle is 87A, and so on and so forth. I think most of them are like that, but you might get one, that maybe doesn't have those markings on it, but the connections all be the same. And so let's look at the schematic for it, if you will, right? So this is just the 5 pins of this relay, and this is the internal part of it here. This little box here with a line through it, that represents the coil. It's an electromagnetic coil, and the diode is part of that. The diode actually, it actually just, let's see, whenever you de-energize a coil, there's always a back EMF, a voltage when it collapses. Kind of similar to how your ignition coil works for your spark plugs. But so anyhow, what they do is it's standard practice. You put a diode across it, so that when you remove the voltage, you don't have that surge of voltage in the back direction. It's just a common practice, and it keeps us from doing weird things, chattering and such like that. So anyways, 86 plus, that's actually the pin number. It's called 86 plus. That's where we're going to put the positive 12 volts to control the relay. And then 85, this is going to be your ground. This just goes to chassis ground, 85. These other three are the actual relay itself this is the switch that we want to use to control our high current load. And so pin 30 here is the common, and when the relay is de-energized, it's connected. Pin 30 is connected and it's got a big set of contacts in there, right? That are made to handle that 30 amp load, that big load. Unlike those little toggle switches that you buy to put on the dashboard, they may say they're rated at 10 or 15 amps, but I can tell you from experience, if you get down in them, they're just little tiny things. They're not very reliable, most of them, a lot of them. So that's why I want to use, a good set of contacts, a good relay that can handle that 30 amp load. So when it is de-energized, 30 connects to 87A, completes that circuit. So so what happens is, think of this as like a lever that just flops back and forth. When you energize this, it pushes this over and makes contact, disconnects from 87A and connects 30 to 87 instead. So if you wanted something to have an indicator that something is off all the time, you could hook a light or something onto this when it's off. And then when it goes on, of course, the power goes in the other direction to pin 87. But I want to show you a quick way to check that. So what I have here is just a little digital DVM, digital voltmeter, and most of these have a little setting on them for testing diodes, and you might see it there where I've got it set now. And what it has is it has a little audio to it. So what that's saying is when there's a short, when the two probes come in contact with each other, it actually just beeps at us like that, right? Tells us that it's a solid connection, you know. So, and we use it for testing diodes and stuff, but anyhow, we can use it when we verify the operation of this relay. So what I'll do is I'll take this harness that we already were playing with earlier, and again, I'll find the right way it goes plugged in here. So we've already identified the wires that we're going to use for our setup here, and we changed the color codes. We moved the wires around, and we put these legends on here. So this is ground, and the yellow one is my control. We said we're going to call it the control. So those go to pins 85 and 86. 85 is black, it's the ground. 86 is yellow. And so listen, let's see, I've got a 9 volt battery, and this just shows you why these relays are so nice to use. So I'll put the ground wire on the negative side of the battery here and listen to it. You can hear it, the relay kicking on and off. It doesn't take much to operate the relay in here. That's what makes it ideal for, you know, you can have a dashboard with, you know, a multitude of switches and just have some really small diameter wires going to it. They don't draw any current. It's like probably less than 100 milliamps to drive this thing. So you could have all your high current carrying stuff done with the relays in, say, a box, you know, somewhere under the kick panel or wherever, and you could have a nice big display with a bunch of switches on it, and you wouldn't have a huge wad of wires going to it. You could have, you know, a bunch of very small ones. You use 20 gauge wires, probably 22 gauge wire. Right? Would still be fine, even smaller than that. But anyhow, you get the idea. So now, to verify, though, that we've got it hooked up correctly, we want to see, we said we were going to use, the blue wire is going to go to the pump. The red wire is going to go to my battery through a fuse on a fuse box somewhere, right? I'm going to have a 30 amp fuse or something like that. So let's just connect my tester to the battery terminal, where, you know, what would be the battery terminal, and the output, which is going to drive my pump or fan or whatever. So, okay, so those are connected, right? Nothing's beeping. So that means there's an open circuit. So we must be on pin 87, right? Because we're not getting any beep. Now listen, so when I put the battery on, right, and I touch the terminal, you can hear the relay kicks in, and it closes that switch path. I know that's obnoxious, I'll stop doing it. But it closes that switch path, and you know, because the contacts are making and breaking. So anyhow, you just have to make sure you understand that when you wire it up, because you'd hate to go through making a whole harness and everything like that and thinking that this is how the configuration is when it's energized. It's not. This is how it's connected when it's de-energized. When this gets energized, that lever goes over and connects 830 to 87. All right, that's all I got. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but I'm sure it helps at least somebody out there. You know, give me a positive comment if it was useful to you. All right, we're gonna talk about this some more in some other vids, I think. But what I want to talk about in this segment is, you know, how you hook these up. Now, a lot of guys will just, you know, you've seen them, those big ugly spade connectors that you crimp on. You know, they got those big yellow sleeves on them, and the guys crimp their wires, and they got them all plugged in, and it's, you know, it's just not real neat looking. Yeah, it serves its purpose, but if you go to troubleshoot, you don't remember which one was on which. Anyways, the solution for that is one of these guys, one of these pigtails. And they make these. These are real common. You can get these at just about every part store, get them on Amazon. But they're made for these, this type of relay. They just plug on like that, right? So if you ever have to replace the relay, you just unplug it, plug a new one in, good to go. And of course, they're kind of short, little pigtails. Of course, you use your regular splice with some shrink tubing, and I'm going to show you that on one of these segments here, and a nice, neat, easy way to do that. But anyhow, so I wanted to talk about this one here. So I bought this pigtail, and I just wanted to discuss this. I had an incident, not an incident. I had a problem with my heater fan, blower motor on my heater on my truck a couple years ago. And I bought one of these. It was all melted and burned up. It had way overheated. And so I needed a new plug. And of course, it's part of the factory vehicle harness, right? It just plugs in under the hood there. But I bought one of these pigtails, and all the colors were different. The colors didn't match the pins that were required for the vehicle. In other words, but I wanted to switch them. So there's an easy way to depin these, and I already did it on a couple of them. And I thought, well, maybe I should just show you guys how to do it. So, for instance, okay, so I'm looking this way. This is, again, the back of this guy, right? 87. There's 86. So when it's plugged in, it's like that, right? So I did a little diagram, and so I want from pin 87, I want 87 to go to my pump, fuel pump, and I want it to be a blue wire. Well, I did that already. So now the power to it is going to come from pin 30, which is just going to go right to my battery, and I want that to be red. So that's pin 30. Well, pin 30 is down here, right? Down here. So I want to move the red one down one. So let me show you how we do that. So if you look closely, you can see these little square, it's not just a slot. Let me turn it so you can see it better. There's a little square section there. Well, what you can do, and I'll show you in a sec. Well, let me show you with this one here. With this particular wire, this is one I pulled out. See if we can get a focus on that. See that little tab? Little tab on there? That's made so when you push it in the connector, it slides across a piece of plastic and locks in, so the wires stay in there. So we need to depress that little tab to slide it out. So what we do is we go on this side. So again, we wanted to take, I wanted to take my red one out and move it down, right? I want to take the plus 30, pin 30. So this one here, I want to move it down one. So I'm going to try and remove it. So what I could do is now, sometimes you have success using just like, well, they make these tools just to depin connectors, and I got a bunch of them because I was doing electronics work for decades. Unfortunately, none of these will fit these automotive type connectors, so you got to improvise a little bit. So sometimes you can find like a little tiny, this is a little tiny Allen wrench that I got that'll slide down in there. You want to push the wire, make sure the wire is pushed this way, and then push down a little bit, and sometimes it should release and come right out of there, just like that. Other times you might have to, use one of these if you don't have like an Allen wrench the right size. It's a little dicier, a little trickier, but it can be done. All right, so now I want to put this back in. I said I wanted to put it in the lower hole. Let me get my orientation again. I want to put it, let's see, there's, it's easy to get mixed up. There's my 87, 87A. There's 30. I want to put it on 30. So you got to notice where that slot is. The tab on the wire needs to go the same side as that slot. If I turn around the other way, the tab won't connect, and it just will fall out. So this is going to go in this way, just like that. And I'll put it in here. Now, when I slide it in here, you should be able to hear that snap when I push it all the way in. Did you hear that? It snapped, and it won't come out of there now. It's captured. Okay, so that's done. So now that's how you repin these. So, again, it might not be a big deal to some guys, but that's how you repin these things. So, and of course, if you damage one of these, I don't know where you'd find any replacements. They're probably available at the electronics parts house, but if you're careful with them, they'll just snap right back in. You can use them over again. Okay, that's all I got for this section. After you figure out which wires go in which position for your relay that you're going to mount, and use this sort of a plugger, and it doesn't matter anywhere. It's always good to have little identifiers on the wires, like this one here, battery plus. This I know is going to go directly to my plus 12-volt battery, right? The black one, I've got it set up. It's going to go to ground. It's going to go to chassis ground, negative side of the battery. And then the yellow one's going to be my control, and the blue one is going to go to my pump. But I'm not going to remember that a year from now, if I'm in their car messing around. So, and you're probably not going to have a schematic with you at the time. So I want to introduce you to one of the a really handy tool that I have used a lot, and it's this guy. Let me bring it in here. Now, this isn't just a regular label. Well, it is. This is just a regular label maker, Brother label maker, and I don't sell these or anything. But so they make these cartridges. This is the standard one, to make a label that you can stick on your drawers and toolboxes and stuff. But the one I have in here, they actually make them with shrink tubing. So check this out. Now, I just found this not too long ago. Turn that thing on. Say I want to make it say ground. So GRND. I mean that's pretty simple, right? You hit print over here. Prints it out the back. Prints it over the side here. For some reason, it prints it on the back side. I don't know. Then it's got this built-in cutter to cut it off. Turn that off. Get it out of the way. Check this out. So, sweet. But it's huge. It ain't going to fit over that wire, right? Well, you'd be amazed. So, I don't need it to be 6 feet long, for sure. It's longer than the wire almost. But now, so watch this. So it truly is, and the only problem I have is getting these to separate, to open up the. But believe me, it really is a tube. It is. Wow, this is really bad, isn't it? You got it. There it is. You got to get it started. Once you get it started, you're good. All right, so you got it started, right? Now, just slip it over the wire. All right. And let's see, I got that one facing that way, so I'm going to turn this around so they all read from the same direction. And then, so now, I don't know if you all have seen this before. I got this guy, right? This is just a Milwaukee heat gun. It's got the deflector on there for doing heat shrink tubing. So what I can do is isolate this guy, turn this on, and watch this. My lights flicker when I use the heat gun. Look at that shit. Done. And man, it shrunk right up. Actually, I'm quite amazed at how much they do shrink. Let me put this gun away someplace where I don't catch anything on fire. So now you got, great way to label your stuff. Anyhow, if you're interested, I'll put a link to where I got those labels, those shrink tube labels, in the description. Make a nice, neat job of it. This is all I got for this one. So just a few more tips. Now that you've got your pigtail, you want to wire it in with the rest of the car. A lot of guys would use these, let me see here, like these things here, these butt splices that stick them on there. Then you take the wire you're connecting it to from the car, and you put it in there, and you crimp it, and then you have the same thing here and here and here, and before you know it, now you got a wad of these yellow things, and they're hard. The insulation doesn't, I mean, we're working on 12 volts. This insulation is for like, I don't know, much more than that. It's probably a lot more than we need, and they look crappy. I don't like them. So the alternative is to use something like these guys, these crimp ferrules. They're just little ferrules. They're plated copper. You slip them over the wires and you crimp them down. So when you use those, of course, they're bare, so you got to protect them. You have to use some shrink tubing. So I use little pieces of shrink tube like this. This is actually, well, I use a lot of them. You know, I mess around with a lot of electronics and stuff. But these are actually lined with, they're glue lined. When you heat them up, the glue actually sticks. You don't need it. You don't need to have that capability, but that's just what these are. And I've got a bag of like 1,000 of these things, pre-cut. Now, of course, you know, shrink tubing, you buy it the lengths. There's better, some grades are better than others. Some are really thin-walled. Some shrink up more than others. You kind of got to do a little homework. There's really big stuff. If you're doing like big battery terminals and stuff, this is actually shrink tubing, and again, this is adhesive line. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can use. But so, anyways, I kind of beat that to death. There's places you can shop around. You can just buy like 4-foot lengths of it and just cut it up yourself. So the first thing you want to do though is slide the shrink tubing over the wire. Otherwise, you're going to forget, and you'll have your splice done, and you'll have to put like tape on it or something like that, right? So, okay, take that, and we take our little ferrule. We'll slide the ferrule over, and you'll notice one end of the ferrule is beveled. It's like opened up like a little horn, which allows you to more easily put the other wire in the other end. And sometimes it's kind of, see, I was really lucky there. A lot of times you get like one little stray strand that springs out, but this actually went in there pretty good. So then you need to put a good crimp on it, a good solid crimp. And so that's where I use, you know, a good set of crimpers. These guys are made for ferrules. These are Nipex. I don't know, some people pronounce the K. I don't know how it's really supposed to, but they're German made. They're kind of expensive, but if you do much of this stuff and you want a neat job, they're worth the $35 or whatever. So you just find the proper set of dies for it, which for this one is that one, and give it a good tight squeeze. Of course, you want to make sure you really drive it home, and then you can see I got a good crimp on it. It's a good solid crimp, and it's not coming apart. It's solid. So then we just slide our shrink tube over, and you know what you could do is you could, to make sure you get it fully covered, you know, you put a mark on it and see how far that piece is going to cover. But as long as you get it pretty close, you're good. And then just take, you know, your heat gun, and you heat it up. Now, a lot of guys might not have this attachment. You know, you can do it with a, we got that one. I just use this Milwaukee heat gun. If you don't have one of these, you know, you can, sometimes, you know, people use a match or a lighter. Just be careful if you use a match or a lighter. Don't put the flame on it. Just let the heat rise and shrink it. And anyhow, so now you got a good solid connection. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could buy colored heat shrink, so you can get colors to match the actual color of the wire. But so anyhow, that's a good way to make a nice splice. And then if you were going to run this in sort of a harness with like some loom or something like that, you put it in there and it won't affect it. You don't have a big ball, a big knot of a joint. So you can run this inside a loom. And I might talk about using, wire loom maybe on another video, but this stuff is really nice too for if you got a bunch of wires that you're running like to the back of the car or something like that. It just, you slip it over. It's easy to use. Makes a really nice installation. I may show a couple of installs doing that later on. But anyhow, these are just a couple of tips that I figure guys might want to know about. So it beats. I've seen guys use this kind of stuff before, those butt splices, and then of course if you're going through a firewall or something metal, sheet metal, use a grommet. And I may do a little piece on grommets and stuff too, and some other methods, depending on what kind of feedback I get on this one here, on this video. So anyways, that's all I've got today. I hope that helps somebody out. Take care. So that's all I've got for today. I hope you found something of use to it. This isn't rocket science, but sometimes there's little tidbits that I can share that help guys out, and that's really what I want to do. So if you're interested in some of the equipment or tools that I use today, in the description I'll put a link to like the Nipec scrimpers and those ferrules and some other stuff as well. And please, hey, like and subscribe if this stuff is useful to you. I've got a lot of different things that I play around with. So I'd appreciate any support you have. And you can also, there's also a link down there. I'm still open for a beer if you want to buy me a cold one. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll catch you next time.